Hey, this is Keith from Save the Rust, and tonight I'm going to show you my 1940 Harley WLDR racer. There's a video on this already on some of the history and the background on it. Why I'm doing a video tonight is tomorrow we're taking this bike and we're bringing it to those a couple of land speed record holders in Manitoba here. I did a video on them in January. These two guys, Gary McDonald and Hector, build and race Harley flatheads at the Bonneville Salt Flats and break records. The last bike they took, took a 47 big inch flathead, did almost 165 miles an hour when he got into a bit of a wobble, which is amazing. And they are building another 45 to race this year. They have a record right now. It's around 120 miles an hour on a Harley 45. So we've been talking back and forth for the last couple of years, and the timing's right. They're interested in working on this bike, which is very historically significant in Winnipeg. This bike was owned and raced by two brothers, Joe and Bill Sawdust, from the early 40s right to the mid 60s. So you're talking, almost 25 years of racing, hill climbs, oval track, scrambles, and they won a lot. I've got an iconic picture of this exact bike doing a winter hill climb. And there's a lot of history on this bike. I'll just touch on it briefly. 1940, they built 76 or 86 WLDR, which are racing. These are racing Harley 45s. Some of them came with ball bearing bottom ends and ball bearings where the cam bushings would go. This one isn't one of them. But this is like a privateer racing kind of bike. So this would have come with, bigger cylinders. The intake's the same as a big inch flathead intake. So it's, larger diameter, and a bunch of other stuff, hot cams, the transmission gears and all that were all unique. There's a lot of stuff going on, but this bike originally would have come as a full fendered, with headlights and everything kind of bike. Over the years, they continued to race it, so they modified it as they raced it. In 1947, they put on these WR tanks. So these are narrow. They put on the bomb sight MR3 carburetor, which came out, I think, in 47, and they put on this Wyco Magneto. Early 1950-51, the bike got painted. These are the scallops, and it's amazing the shape this bike has survived in. Early 50s, they put on this Royal Enfield front end, seat, and wheels. It currently has no brakes on it. This is race only, and at one point in its life, they took the right-hand case off and they replaced it with like a 42 or 43 WLC case. And the reason for that is I believe it's on the front engine stud. Usually there's studs that go through both sides, and then they have nuts and lock washers and stuff. There's one bolt and the bolt snapped. So the stud of that bolt is still stuck in the original case. I have the correct case. So this bike sat hidden in a motorcycle shop, very famous motorcycle shop called Canadian Motorcycle, owned by Joe Sawdust, from early 70s right till, I think I got this in 2017, 2016. So, 45 years it was hidden. I'd never seen it until the day I bought it. you know, I'd heard rumors about it. Some people had seen it. Most people worked there, had seen it at one point. But this was Joe's prized possession because it was his brother Bill's bike, and then he raced it also. So he hit it. This bike was covered in blankets and clothes, and in the hardest spot to get at in the shop that you would take you forever to get out. You know, he had it kind of barricaded in there, and because he felt so strongly about this bike, he didn't want it to get stolen or anything, you know, because this is a rare bike. So what's gone on is, you know, when Joe passed, myself and a couple friends tried to get it running. As you're kicking it over, it's not seized or anything. It was lightly seized when we first got it, but it didn't take much to break it loose. But when you kick it over, there was no noise or nothing, and we were kicking and kicking and kicking, and we thought, well, you know what? Let's try push starting it just to see if we can, you know, get a bit more going, because I don't know how to start this bike, you know, what the little nuances is about it. It's a race bike. There's a lot of stuff on it that's, you know, specialty. I don't even know if I don't even think this carburetor has a choke on it because it's a racing carb. Anyway, while we were pushing it, we could hear a noise in the front cylinder, and that's where we're thinking it's from. So we stopped right there. You know, there's no sense doing anything more at this point. So it's been sitting. I brought it to a few shows, you know, told a story about it, and you know, people love the bike. It's, you know, has Manitoba, Canada racing history, and it needs to go back on the track. It needs to get raced again. And that's the plan. So getting back to these two individuals who have more than enough credentials. I mean, they are racing and hope to beat their current record of like 120 miles an hour on a Harley 45, which is one of these. But this is even the hot rod version of the hot rod 45. So they're excited because they want to see what Harley did to make this bike go fast back in the 40s. So they're excited because, you know, they're like, you know, mechanical gurus. They, you know, these guys build and grind their own cams. They heat treat them themselves. They do all their own work. Amazing. If you haven't seen the video on their big inch flathead Bonneville Salt Flat racer that I did, check it out. It's awesome. It's great to watch, especially if you're even a mild gearhead, on how these two guys took that bike and did like over 160 miles an hour at Bonneville, where you lose 20% of your power. So in a normal elevation, these guys would probably be closer to like 195, 200 miles an hour on a Harley big inch flathead. It's pretty crazy. On a Harley 45 at 120 miles an hour that they broke a record, that would be closer to 145 miles an hour. Think about that. Think about how many 45s you've ever seen doing 75 miles an hour and almost double that. Insane. So we're gonna bring this bike to them. You know, they're gonna do their magic on it, and we're gonna get it back running. So this is a big day. This is you know, I'm pretty excited. There's a couple of people who are going to be probably even more excited than me, but yeah. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of little things that, as I'm pulling the other case off, some differences between a stock Harley 45 and a WLDR. And tomorrow we're going to go for our little road trip. It's about 3 hours one way. And we're going to drop off the bike, and we're going to talk to Gary and Ted, and you know, kind of get their background on what they're going to do on the bike, and hopefully we'll get a chance to check out their new 1942 WLC Bonneville Salt Flat bike, which they're just finishing up. I'm bringing them in one part that they need, and part of a magneto, and I can't wait to see that new bike. It's going to be phenomenal. So stay tuned. So I'm pulling off the 1940 WLDR right side case that belongs to the bike, and this was a mock-up motor. And again, here's a set of WLDR barrels. You see how they come out to the outside of the head. The diameter is different. And then you look at these and you can see how they concave in quite a bit. So like a lot. So that's these are really hard to find barrels. They're really rare and expensive now. So I'm lucky that I have an extra set to go with that bike. So one of the things I wanted to point out was this is a stock, 1942, 43 WLC, and this is your cams go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's like an idler gear here, and this is where your generator would pop through. And you can see how this section here and all this is kind of oblong here, and there's like a pin here, and there's a gear that goes there. Well, the WLDR is different. You can see this area has all been machined, and there's two points where you could bolt in the idler gear, and I'm not exactly sure what this is. And then you'll notice it's more round, and there's 3 holes. Now, these 3 holes, I can't tell you if they're factory or not. I don't know enough about these WLDRs to tell you that. But a lot of times these early WLDRs, WRs had the magneto in place here. So that could be what that was for. But this one, as you've seen in the bike upstairs, there's a Whiteco magneto that goes right in the center here. Okay. So here's that idler gear. And you can see how this mount would bolt onto here, and then this would fit on. I'm not really sure what this is all about here, this piece, but that would go into there. So there's a few more things I pulled out, and I'm going to try and show you the differences on the WLDR parts, the racing parts versus a stock part. So we're going to start off with the heads. So this is just your normal. This is there's a number 5 somewhere on here. Yeah, right there. So there's a 5. This is like medium compression, I think. So just look at the design, the depth of the like where it's all relieved, and then this is WLDR. Now I'm gonna get back to this in a second, but this is a 3-bar head, so this is a high compression head, and you look at the area compared to this one. So there's just, this has got a lot bigger area that, for the air and fuel mixture, and this one's a lot less. And then you're gonna see here, there's been some welding, and I'm not sure if this was factory, but you can see there was, this piece actually went in there, and either Harley did this or the Sawdust Brothers did this, and that would have made it even more high compression. So that I'm unsure of, but it's pretty fascinating to see if this was the stock and then they decided to try and weld this piece in to even increase the compression even more. I got some extra cams here. So one of the things we'll look at is the intake ports are larger diameter. There's smaller diameter, larger diameter. The intake ports are 1 9/16 diameter. I'm not sure what the regular 45s are, but they're a lot smaller. And they have a larger, obviously a larger intake manifold. The intake ports, the manifold, and the cylinder head combustion chambers were all polished. So this was all polished at one point on the heads. This would have been all polished. Can't tell now, there's so much carbon buildup. And what they did is they relieved this area for better flow. You'll see there's a little bit of a depression here. I think it's like a 16th inch or more. And it almost feels like it's angled. Where on a stock 45, you can see that isn't done. So they put a lot of tricks and, especially of the day to make these bikes go faster, which is quite amazing, Some of the other parts we got here, we got a bunch of stuff in here. I'm not sure if these are the angled tappets or not, but because all this stuff came with the bike. These are the gears that also came with the bike. I'm not sure if there's anything different. Some extra connecting rods and stuff. So lots of unique stuff. I got an extra set of cams that came with it. I'm not sure, probably have to get them reground and stuff, but there's probably numbers on here that would tell you exactly everything, but I haven't researched them yet. I'm not sure. So just some unique stuff I thought you'd enjoy seeing. So I'm super interested to see exactly what is in this motor, because you can see it's got the larger barrels, and I'm hoping those are 3-bar heads. It's hard to tell. And I'm, kind of curious of what they've done on the inside, if they took a bunch of the cams from the original WLDR and put them into this cam cover side. So this right side of this case is not a WLDR. It is just a straight 45. But I'm curious to see what happens there. So one of the things about these bikes that's unique is they created 7 more horsepower than the WLD motor. I know with just a WL, WLC, those were like 18 to 21 horsepower. So I'm not sure what a WLD would have made, but the WLDR made 7 more horsepower. And they also used 25% stronger valve springs, special intake and exhaust cam gears. And these motors would peak at 55 to 5,700 RPM. So these things can scream. So I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the unique pieces that the WLDR has versus a regular Harley 45 motor. As the motor gets built, we're going to get some pictures, hopefully some video, and get a little bit more understanding of what's going on in this motor, and then hopefully get it all WLDR race components in the motor. So to say I'm super excited is an understatement. I've had the bike for probably about 8 years. And this is the time to get it running. It's been sitting in my living room and enjoying it, looking at the bike, because for 50 years it sat hidden. So, now it's time to go ride it. So follow along as we bring it over to Ted and Gary's tomorrow. And it's going to be some terrible weather. There's supposed to be some snow. So, and then we'll talk to Ted and Gary and see what they have to say. I know they're excited. They're really excited to work on this bike and see what Harley did to make their bikes go fast in the 40s, as these guys are making bikes go fast today. So today we came into Alonzo, Manitoba with Gary and Ted, and these guys have done a lot of Bonneville Salt Flat racing on flatheads. 45 cubic inches, big inch flatheads. They have hold 5 records and have broken multiple more. And who else is better to get this specific WLDR racer running again than two people who understand flatheads and own records on flatheads at Bonneville. So this is what the whole point is. I don't know anybody who's more qualified to get this bike running again. So I'm excited about all this, and I know you guys are excited, so you can see what Harley did.
We're really excited.
What Harley did back in the day.
Because we really want to see what's in it.
Yeah.
We really want to time, like everybody says, oh, I had WLDR cams, eh?
Yeah.
Right? Eh?
We're gearheads.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
But everybody says, like, WLDR cams. What are they? We bought a set off the internet. What were they?
Oh, I don't know what they were. They were not as powerful as just straight WL cams.
Exactly.
So you want to see what's going on the inside of this factory, Harley?
What's going on, eh?
Yeah. Yep.
And see what
they did.
Yeah.
At that time.
Look at we
It's
can
a moment in history where they were doing a certain thing to try and increase the speed and the power of a 45 engine, and we want to see exactly what they did.
And they did a good job.
They did, yes.
Okay, they were dominating a lot. Indian and that was back and forth.
Yep.
One thing you want to know, a lot of Indian people will really fucking be pissed off at this. Most Indians that were running against the top numbers at that time were running Harley Bonneville.
That's right.
And that is the truth.
That is the truth.
And you can check it's Ax Sifton. He was the one that went through all. But anyway, to make short of that, we're really man, we can't
yeah, we're excited.
wait to see to dial in. We make our own cabs, so we know what we use. We'd really like to know what they used in them days. We use ours for a longer track, obviously.
Yeah.
But we'd like to know what they used. It's going to be really interesting to pull off and dial them in and just see what they tried. They tried the bomb sight carburetor, and these are all great things.
Yeah.
But we found in Bonneville, for us personally, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Like a WR only does about 85, and they were they're supposed to do 100 miles an hour, which works about right.
Yeah, it does.
20% loss. But this bike was raced by Joe Sotis, who I raced against in about 1960 something, and he was the first guy ever to have a CZ. It changed the, we used to run
The
scramble
landscape.
set. It just changed everything. He was first. Eugene Kwolek was second on a 650 BZ. You can see the difference in the bike. And I had a Gilera, but I still beat the English Greaves with the famous Star Maker engine and everything. But anyways, this thing had been raced in those type of classes. So it had been raced half-mile scrambles. Scrambles then you could get to over 70 miles an hour because they were long straightaways. So this bike, it had to be set up to do a lot of things. But the fact that it was a flathead, and you can see the difference in the cylinders on a 45, they aren't this bulbous around the back or here. It's got a Wyco magneto. Keith has taken the back exhaust off. It wasn't any real specialty thing, but it was a certain thing that Harley developed. This is a race bike from that era, and say the 50s, eh?
Yep.
And it would have been very competitive. And, shit, man, that's when men were men and, sheep were nervous. This was a real thing, like this is a real race bike, even though it's a 45. But it was the thing was the 45, eh? The torque,
Yep.
the reliability,
Yep.
and really the power, eh? Like, this thing probably turns out, what do you think?
Well, the engine itself,
Yep.
at that time, I think they were turning out like this one would maybe be turning out maybe 28 or 29.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So, that doesn't sound like much, but the torque,
But over the regular WL, I mean, that
Yeah.
was 23 or maybe
That's
at
right,
the very best
22 to
20.
23.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a snapshot in time. I mean, it's really.
It is. It's.
And for a couple of gearheads, I mean, you know, take this apart. And we're a flathead guys.
Yeah.
And we know what makes them go. We want to see what they did
Yeah.
to make them go at that
We
time.
really do.
Yeah.
And this is such, like Gary said, it's a snapshot in time. This bike is exactly what Joe Sotis' brother drove.
Yeah.
And Keith Blaze has said, I want to keep it exactly the way it is. We're going to make this bike run, and we're going to know, with exactly the same cams, compression ratio and everything, and we're going to see, what was this bike like to ride?
Yeah.
I think we might add a break, because I think we'd like to be able to slow down a little bit. But other than that, we'd really like to see what the power this thing has and how close we have seen people, erase these things, and this is not what people think. These weren't slow bikes.
No.
So this is going to be something, like you said, a snapshot in time, right?
Yeah.
Well,
This is right at the beginning of Class C racing.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, there you go. Bruce.
and this stuff, this bike sat for, close to 55 years. Hasn't raced in almost 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So excited. It's
This is a real, I'm glad you resurrected it too, like, or you bought it,
Yeah.
so that it could be resurrected. We aren't changing it. That wasn't my idea, and I'm sure it's yours. And now I respect that, because I think it should stay the way. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You convinced us, actually. I would like to see the Springer front end on it, but that's your problem. But I do like the bike, and I think it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a lot of more videos of you driving it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We'll kind of give you some stuff of what we had to put into it now. We're not changing a lot into it.
Yeah.
We're not going to do any.
Going to bring it back to mechanically
Exactly.
or right,
Yeah.
like functional.
Yeah.
Because it is making some noises when you kick it over, right?
Yeah. It makes a bit of noise.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you when it's done, the flywheels will be retrieved better by Gary than it'll ever be done by anybody else. We'll do a good job on this motor, and then we'll see what it can do. And it's going to be really neat to go back in time and see what a high performance bike of that time was.
Oh yeah. I'm
Anyway.
excited. So, in this video, we're going to give you a quick idea, quick little snapshot of what these two guys are building and going to be racing in Bonneville this fall. So show us this bike that you guys just finished building. So there's we can go and look at all the walls here on all the stuff that these two guys have built and raced. And National Championship awards, land speed record awards. So these guys have all done this on flatheads. And here's their most current build. And we just did a video on it this afternoon, but I'm going to give you a little snippet of it. This is a 1942 WLC that these guys are going to race. And just give us a quick breakdown on this bike, and they can see the full-length feature on it.
Yeah, it's a 42 WLC, which is Canadian military. We're hoping it will be received with a little bit of, whatever. We're gonna still, we're gonna still represent it as a Canadian military WLC,
In spite of the political tensions between
Yeah.
Canada and the U.S. right now. Yeah.
We've always found down there, other than one of the guys that used to run it, we've always, because they're all gearheads,
Yeah.
and our first record when we did it with the 45 was so incredible. I don't mean that in bragging. It was that people had never realized that a 45 could do 112 miles an hour, okay?
Yeah.
And when we had done it, remember?
Yeah.
People were literally, we weren't quite sure on how to go back to impound, remember?
Yeah.
And guys were literally running and saying, screaming that they did it. They did it.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Yeah, we
Americans, I don't think we'll have any problem. We've always had nothing. People go down to America and think it's this Wild West. People down there are incredible. That's all I got to say about it. Hey, Gary?
Well, they're just like us.
Yeah.
They love this stuff. They love their gearheads. They work all year long to make a bike that they can take down there for 5 days and try and get a record on. And man, I mean, it's like a brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And everybody there is so... It's a common thing, and everybody knows that things can happen. Eh? It can be bad, it can be good. You can work all year and go there and like we did last year, and things don't turn out. And we've had a few years where that happens. There's people that have spent millions. That's what people don't understand about Bonneville.
Yeah.
They spent millions and never got a record.
And we spend thousands.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is the newest creation that's going to do what? How much you figure it'll do?
This year, if we could break 120 miles an hour for a 750 45, that'll be really good. We expect, and I'm not, jinxing us, but I'd like to see at 5,000, we get to 5,000, should be around 127.
Yeah.
Right around there. I think if we push it a little bit with the boost, we could get to 130. If we can do that, we're in the 1,000 or a 1,600 cc range. So to do it from a lowly 45, which only had 22 horsepower when we started, I think this is a good. It's as good as you can do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is a blown motor, and so it's got some power.
So to say these guys are more than qualified to work on that 1940 WLDR is an understatement. So I am so happy that I can leave this, this Manitoba history bike with these two guys and let them do their magic on it and get that bike running great, and so we can go and race it again.
And then we'll have a video on that.
Yeah.
Because I want to see you on that.
Oh yeah.
Cranking a nice corner with, doing a rooster tail off the back of that son of a bitch.
Sounds good to me. So I just want to again thank Gary and Ted for an incredible afternoon. I'm going to leave that bike with them, and they're going to get that thing running. And check out our video on this, their new build. And if you haven't seen, we did a video on them in January with their 1942 U. That they went to Bonneville and did over 160 miles an hour, which is insane for a flathead. And just happy that we are able to document some of this, some of these bikes that these guys are building, and bring it to you. And I'm Keith from Save the Rust. This is who we are. This is what we do with Ted Hector and Gary McDonald. Have a great day.